Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Thinking Tuesdays. Today we are tonight we are going to be talking about how to articulate your thoughts, and that was a very bad example of articulation. Anyway, before I start, I'd like to greet everyone who's watching right now, and especially to our fans club president. Hello, Sir Joseph. Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have been asked several times about this topic, and I'm not even sure if I'm good enough to talk about this, right? Because I also have my ums and my fillers and stuff like that. But I will be sharing with you some of the tips that have been helping me out as I go along, as also as an instructor and also as a live streamer. You know that every single night I do this, and it's really actually a very good practice to just talk and have organize my thoughts and deliver them in such a way that it will be understood. All right, so tonight again, welcome to my channel, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Tuesdays. I'm Irene, a real estate broker in the Philippines, a motivational speaker, and a writer. And before that, okay, let me before I start, I will just wait, I will just advertise. here's the here's the magazine that I'm writing for. So this Art Plus magazine, it's now available in um, National Bookstore and fully booked. So if you're buying a magazine, make sure that you drop by at fully booked and National Bookstore. You can also get in touch with me because I'm here. Look, of course, I this is my bragging rights. My bragging rights talaga. Ayan, so I'm there. So just in case you're buying, tadan. Okay, that's my name right there. Okay, so anyway, again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be starting our discussion or our conversation about articulating your thoughts. So the main goal of this episode is really to give us more confidence in speaking our minds, because I don't know, maybe it's cultural. It's something that's cultural that we don't really we don't really express ourselves. But there are so many ways on how to express ourselves, and that's of course one way to do that is really to articulate your thoughts really well. Okay, we will be starting. Let me share my screen. All right, why is it not sharing? Let me do that again. Ayaw niya. Ayan, ayaw niya sumunod. Okay, so okay. Watching from Orchid's Garden with FO1 Arthur Mendoza and FO1 Neil Virgil Calandas, reformer students and at NFTI. Ay, talaga ba? Hi! Nice to see you. Nice to know that you're watching, although I can see you. So let me correct that one. But thank you so much for tuning in. Okay. So one of the challenges as in our culture is really expressing ourselves. Most of the time, we are just so shy about expressing ourselves, and so we are going to be talking about this topic so that we will not be shy anymore. Of course, we are still polite, but we can express ourselves, right? Okay, let me. Okay, so let's start once again. Let's start by talking about or by defining what articulation is all about. So, from Oxford Languages, it says there that articulation is the formation of clear and distinct sounds in speech. Okay, and when we talk about articulation, we are also talking about how do we really articulate our thoughts, because articulation is usually right, it's usually when it comes to speaking, but when we are articulating our thoughts, we are we are using an act or a process or a means of putting something into words. Have you ever experienced yung parang na mental block ako, hindi ko na maalala yung sasabihin ko, or maybe something like I don't really know what to say, but I know, I understand, I know what I want to say, but I can't express myself. So if this happens, now this is also, obviously, this is a very common scenario where we tend to forget, when we tend to forget what we're about to say, or when we have mental blocks. Maraming dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng mga ganitong scenario. So we will be talking about that tonight. Okay. Let me just share with you some of the people that I believe are articulate. If you've heard Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, and his wife, Michelle Obama, they're really two of the most articulate people that I've ever heard. Like, even if it's just an interview, they know what they're talking about. Well, obviously, they are both lawyers, so maybe they got it from school as well as training, education, and a lot of things. Practice, of course, because they've been politicians for quite a while, right? I mean, Barack Obama. So it's one of the most common characteristics of being a politician is really to, to be articulate about the words that they're I mean, to be articulate about their thoughts, to articulate their thoughts. Ano ba yun? Pati ako, di ba, nag-stammer today. Anyway, so in the Philippines naman, you're maybe more familiar with Bo Sanchez, of course. I'm really a big fan of Bo Sanchez. Is very articulate. And also Jessica Soho. So we have so many people that we really look up to, or maybe we've heard that they sound so smart and we want to emulate them. Actually, I have so many people that I really look up to and I really emulate all the time. And even their accent sometimes. I would I would try to pirate their accents. Um, if that makes sense at all. But obviously, in the Philippines, we don't really have to pirate any accent. We also have our unique Filipino accents. So don't worry so much about our accents. But again, these are some of the people that if you're thinking about articulate speakers, then maybe some of these people will come to your mind. So also give me an example. Sino sa tingin ninyo yung mga ina-idolize din ninyong speakers, no, na medyo kumbaga gusto ninyong gayahin because they're really very articulate with what they're saying. Okay, gumagalaw yung camera natin. Okay. So what are the challenges in articulating our thoughts? There are so many. First and foremost, of course, is the lack of knowledge. Siyempre, kapag hindi mo alam yung sasabihin mo, hindi mo alam kung paano siya sasabihin. Kung hindi mo alam yung sinasabi mo, hindi mo alam paano siya sasabihin. Um, Understanding, when someone's explaining to you and you understood it, it's one skill. Understanding it and saying it to somebody else, naintindihan ko na, explain ko sa ibang tao, ibang level din ng skill yon. So, kaya minsan, don't feel bad whenever naintindihan mo pero hindi mo ma-explain. Di ba, ilang beses na yan nangyayari sa atin na parang, oh, gets ko na yan. Pero pag sinabing, explain mo naman sa akin, sasabihin ng seatmate mo, hindi ko ma-explain pero na-gets ko. So, that's because these are two different functions. Understanding it is one thing, articulating it is another. So, when we say lack of knowledge, minsan, kulang na nga yung naintindihan natin, kulang pa yung alam natin. So, mahirap talaga i-articulate yung thoughts natin. The second one is the lack of objective. If you don't know why you're speaking, it's really hard. Okay? It's really hard to articulate it. Okay? Kung hindi mo alam kung ano yung purpose, kung bakit ka nagsasalita, edi mahirap talaga. Mahirap talaga mag-articulate, di ba? Okay. Next is emotional barriers. If you are feeling something, something inside you, if you are sad, if you are upset, it's also hard to articulate our thoughts. That's why there are so many people who would rather keep quiet than speak whenever they're upset, because emotional barriers are really making it hard for people to articulate themselves. Okay. One example would be men. To all the men in the audience, this is so true. Like when you're upset, you wouldn't say something. It's easier for you to just keep quiet instead of articulating your thoughts, right? So, kasi nga, mahirap yun eh. Mahirap upset ka, tapos magsasalita ka. It's really challenging. And at the same time, you might probably end up saying something which you would never want to say in the first place. Okay? So that's also a challenge. Next is language barriers. Um, I think if you've been watching me constantly every single night, you would know that I have a language barrier. Sometimes I would like look for a word that I don't really know especially when I'm translating from English to Tagalog. By the way, we call it code switching. as a language major, code switching is really hard to do. And it's also something that's being impolite to the language. But we got used to it. As Filipinos, we got used to code switching, like using two languages all at the same time. Kaya nga may Taglish, di ba? O kaya Tagbi, kaya sa amin Tagalog Bicol, ganyan. So may mga ganon, we code switch because when we don't know how to say something in that particular language, we find that particular word in another language. And obviously, if you are having a hard time with using the language, you are going to have a hard time articulating your thoughts. That's why I always say that you really have to practice constantly when it comes to when it comes to your vocabulary, so that you wouldn't really go crazy when you're looking for the right word to say, because there are going to be times which, even though you're very articulate, you're still going to have a hard time saying the words that you're about to say, because it's just a challenging time, right? And next is mental block. Okay, very common to. Nasa dulo na ng dila ko. Di ba ganon yung mga... Sa atin lang naman yun eh. Di ba? Yung nasa dulo na ng dila ko pero hindi ko pa maalala. So, our idiomatic expression of saying that we know what we want to say, but we forgot. We forgot what it is, right? So, may mga ganon tayo. So, yun yung tinatawag nating mental block. Ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng mental block? Kasi in relation to articulating your thoughts, we also have to find out what's causing it, right? And one of the causes of one of the challenges in articulating your thoughts is mental block. And mental block is an inability to recall some specific thing or perform some mental action. Ulitin natin. An inability to recall some specific thing or perform some mental action. So, nahirapan kang maalala yung particular thing na yun. Minsan nangyayari to kapag may gusto kong sabihin, tapos, for example, sa song, di ba? May narinig mo yung song, alam mo yung title, pero hindi mo maalala. Di ba? Tapos mamaya, it will come to you like, maybe after an hour, maybe after a day, maybe within the week, gano'n. So, nagkakaroon talaga tayo ng ganong pangyayari sa buhay natin. And don't worry, it's not so bad. But we have to figure out what causes it. So, I'm gonna talk about what causes mental block as well. And before that, lack of experience. Yes, that's true. Hello. Hello, Sir Noel. No, yung palang sinasabi. Hello po, good evening. Thank you so much for watching. Sir Cañete, good evening po. And thank you for tuning in. Okay. So, pag nakaka-relate po kayo, pwede po kayo mag-chime in sa conversation. And for those of you who's new to my channel, please let me know by saying your highs and hellos on the comment section below. Para makilala ko din kayo. Kasi yung mga, ayan po, yung mga panay comment po dyan, mga constant po talaga silang nanonood. Kaya sobrang thankful ako. Thank you po sa constant supporters ko. Thank you. Okay. What causes mental block? Because to be able to articulate your thoughts, you have to break it down. Yung mga challenges na nagko-cause ng hindi mo pa ma-articulate yung thoughts mo. So one of those is mental block. Ano may yung possible causes naman ng mental block? Possible cause number 1 is when you're mentally tired. Siyempre, pag pagod yung utak mo, mahirap mag-process ng mga bagay-bagay. So nagkakaroon tayo ng mental block. Okay? Possible cause number 2 is when you're emotionally tired. So hindi lang naman tayo mentally tired eh. Minsan nga, pag emotionally tired tayo, tsaka mentally tired, mas pagod pa tayo kesa kapag physically tired. Ayan. Naghanap din ako ng words. Okay. Sample ako, mental block. Timing. Ano yun, Sir Noel? Hindi ko na-get. Sorry, medyo slow. Nakaka-mental block naman talaga kapag si Miss Ice nakaharap mo, napapatulala ka na lang. Grabe. Ano yun? Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, so possible cause number 2 is when you're emotionally tired. Again, when you're mentally or emotionally tired, you're more exhausted than when you are just physically tired. Kasi pag physically tired ka, oo, masakit-sakit yung mga buto-buto mo or whatever, but it's never equal to being mentally and emotionally tired. Mas draining kasi maging mentally and emotionally tired, di ba? Lalong-lalo na kung may pinagdadaanan. Sino yung mga pinagdadaanan dyan sa audience? Di ba? Mas nakakapagod yun pag may pinagdadaanan. Tapos yung iba dyan, tumatambay pa nga. Nalaglag yung camera ko. Sumasang-ayon yung camera ko. All right. Next is when you're overwhelmed with sige na, ipa-flash ko to. Mental block if you are emotionally in love. Yes. I like it. Sir Noel, I know. Okay. Possible cause number 3, when you're overwhelmed with tasks. Ayan na naman tayo sa braces. Okay, syempre pag marami kang ginagawa, di ba, ang hirap, I talked about this, I think in my previous episodes, when we are trying to focus on things, it takes 30 minutes to go back to it. Sometimes it takes more than that. Sometimes it takes an hour or two. So, of course, when you're overwhelmed with tasks, it's so hard to focus on another topic. Kaya nga 'di ba kapag ang dami mong ginagawa, mahirap makipag-usap. Kaya ay kahapon pala 'yun no, yung sinabi ko. Yeah, kahapon pala 'yun yung sinabi ko na kapag may gusto kong gawin, dapat focus talaga, focus. Kasama ba 'yun? Nakaka-cause ng mental block? Puwede 'no, puwede. Siyempre 'pag ano, wala kang budget, nakaka-cause talaga ng mental block 'yun. Tama, thank you sir. Dapat pala sinama natin yung financially tired. Okay. Sir Sir Noel, I'm watching. Baliktad din 'no? 'Yan. So, siyempre obviously kapagka marami kang ginagawa, mahirap mag-focus, 'di ba? Another possible cause of mental block is when you lack sleep. Because when you lack sleep, syempre, again, nag-iiba kasi yung ugali natin pag puyat tayo. So, if you have less sleep than usual, sometimes our brain tends to fall asleep while, while we are doing something. So, nakaka-mental block talaga yon. Lalo na pag marami kang tinapos a day before, tapos kulang ka sa tulog, tapos magre-report ka the next day. Asahan nyo na yan, talagang matindi yung mental block. Yes, focus talaga. Hindi naman. Ikaw talaga, sir. Yung mga may utang dyan, di na nawala mental block. Lalim ng hugot natin, Sir Joseph, ah. Sir Noel, bakit napupuyat? Aba, pag-usapan natin yan sa susunod na episode. Ano ang mga dahilan? Pwede yan, di ba? Ano ang mga dahilan bakit napupuyat ang mga Pilipino? O ba, ano ang mga dahilan? Okay, so, syempre isa sa mga dahilan dyan, ano matawag doon? Yung mga, mentally tired din, emotionally tired, o kaya may pinagdadaanan, o kaya pwede rin in love, ganyan. Oh, gusto natin marinig yan eh, nakaka-happy. Okay, possible cause number 5 when it comes to mental block is self-doubt. One of your worst detractor is yourself. Detractors. Okay, let me say that again. One of your worst distraction? Your worst detractor is yourself because we constantly doubt ourselves more than everybody else. We constantly criticize ourselves more than everybody else. We constantly tell ourselves that we're not good enough. You know that? Diba? Pag may nasabi ka, may pumalpak lang sa mga ginagawa mo, parang galit na galit ka na sa sarili mo. And when we doubt and whatever we feed whatever we feed our mind, it definitely triggers something else. And sometimes it triggers mental block. 'Di ba? Kasi ikaw mismo panay yung criticize mo sa sarili mo. So sabi ng utak mo, inaano mo ako kini-criticize mo ako, bahala ka diyan, 'di ba? So nagme-mental block siya. Humihinto siyang mag-isip. Next, of course, another possible cause of mental block is time pressure. Kapag maiksi yung time na magsasalita tayo or maiksi yung time para mag-prepare tayo, 'di ba? Yun yung cause ng mental block natin. Of course, I have been teaching since since forever. I have been teaching for more than 10 years. And one of the things that I have observed, no, as a teacher, as an instructor, okay, laging mental block pag nagugulat. Kasi syempre recitation, no? Tapos bigla mong tinawag si student A, nagugulat na lang siya bigla. Pag nagulat siya, syempre wala siya talagang time para alam mo yun, to organize his thoughts or her thoughts or whatever. So, ang nangyayari, nagkaka-mental block siya. Kahit na even though we are talking about some of the smartest people in the class, ganun pa rin yung nagiging reaction nila kasi nagugulat sila. Wala kasi silang time eh. Just imagine, biglang tinawag yung pangalan mo. Tapos, nakikinig ka naman, kaya lang, nung time na yun, wala kang sagot. Kasi parang kakatanong lang ng teacher, tapos biglang tinawag yung surname mo. So, that's what happens, of course. Konti yung time, pero kailangan mo magsalita. So, mental block. Di ba? Agree ako sa number 5. Alam mo na, ouch, criticism. Parang pinag-uusapan natin yun. That's true, 'di ba? We tend to put so much pressure in ourselves. Most of the time actually. So it's not healthy. It's healthy every now and then, but it's not healthy all the time. So medyo medyo balansehin natin. Okay, so yun na yung mga causes ng mental block. So na-unearth na natin, na-reveal na natin kung ano yung mga causes ng mental blocks. So how do we really articulate our thoughts? Okay, so I will be sharing with you some of the tips that I use that I personally apply on myself. Yeah, that I personally applied in my daily, activities, or maybe at work, or maybe when I'm working, maybe when I'm teaching, ganyan. So I will share with you some of the tips, and of course, you can definitely share your own experience. Again, this is a conversation. Pwede po kayong mag-share ng experiences ninyo so that we will also be learning from each other. The point of this live stream, di ba, is to really empower each other so that we will be able to function better in our workplace and even in our personal even in our personal lives. Okay. Ang pinakauna, tip number 1 in articulating your thoughts is really to organize your thoughts. If you are a student, whenever you are a student, you really have to focus on what's going on. For example, you really have to listen to your teacher or to your instructor. I know that there are college students who are watching this live stream every now and then, and there are also high school students. So if you're a student watching right now, let me tell you this: you really have to listen to your teacher or whatever the topic is all about, and you really have to organize your thoughts. And when you do not know how to organize your thoughts, it's pretty simple actually. Just create parang a 1 2 3 na step. For example, this is how I organize my thoughts. So parang ganito, yung statement or yung question, let's say question, my answer, support to the answer, and then conclusion. So ganun lang siya lagi. Meron akong parang 3 easy steps on how to organize my thoughts. So that's how I do it. But of course, every person, iba-iba yung strategy nila. That's why when people ask me about certain questions, I always have answers because I already have this format in my head on how to answer any question that's being thrown at me. Pero syempre, hindi lahat ng question, no? May mga questions na hindi ko naman talaga masasagot, di ba? Kagaya nung last time, syempre when it's something beyond my league, I will not be able to answer those questions. But you get what I'm saying. Almost all the time, I'm being asked several questions, and I always organize my thoughts so that I will be able to answer them. And just in case I cannot answer them, I will tell them very honestly that I don't know the answer to it. I mean, nobody dies from wrong answers or from not knowing the answers. Okay? So, again, organize your thoughts. Para ang dali sabihin. Pero again, it takes practice to do that. Next is to be clear with your objective. Bakit ka nga ba magsasalita? Ano yung gusto mong iparating? Kasi, ang nangyayari sa atin, gusto nating magsalita, pero ang nangyayari is, Sir Noel, nakakatawa ka. Behavior this. Hello, sir. Sir. Funny ka, sir. Thank you. Thank you for making it, making our night vibrant. Yes, vibrant talaga. Okay. Most of the time kasi ang nangyayari sa atin as, in normal conversations, we just speak up. 'Di ba? Normal conversations yan eh. Kasi wala namang right or wrong answers, parang ganon. Pero, when we are at work, when we are expected to have the answers, then by all means, we have to be very clear with our objective. For example, ito yung very common example na ginagamit ko sa communication subject ko, no? When I'm teaching. Kapag ka, for example, magrereklamo ka, meron kang defective product sa mall, at inaway mo, take note, at inaway mo yung security guard ng mall, wala naman siyang magagawa para sa iyo eh. Kasi hindi naman siya yung taong in charge. Dapat, kung magko-complain ka, doon sa taong in charge. So what's your objective in talking to the guard? Nag-vent out ka lang ng inis mo, ganon. Wala naman siyang magagawa. That's not his job. Okay, his job is safety and order. Hindi niya trabaho yung mag-replace ng defective item. So, 'di ba? Doon pa lang, that's a very clear example of what's your objective? Why are you going to speak? Okay? Huwag tayong basta-basta magsasalita lang for nothing. Kasi sayang naman ang effort natin. Unless it's a common conversation. I mean, it's a usual conversation with friends. It's a usual conversation with your family members. That's okay. But when we are at work, when we are at work, people tend to be more critical about what we talk about what we discuss. Then we have to be very clear with our objective before we even speak a word. Next is to use appropriate language. Okay. I mentioned this earlier that I also struggle with Tagalog. Like, I'm very honest with it because people tend to misinterpret people because of the language that they use, not really how they delivered, but most of the time the words also that they are using. So several times in my life while I'm speaking Tagalog, I would mix it with another dialect. So using a word from another dialect which doesn't make sense in Tagalog. So it sounds funny and sometimes inappropriate. So when you are trying to articulate your thoughts, make sure that you're using the appropriate language. For example, if you're talking to someone who's only speaking in Tagalog, you don't really have to speak in English. If someone is speaking in English, then you reply in English. Now, if a person speaks in English, but you really do not understand a word that that person is saying, then you really have to be honest with that person. Okay? Use appropriate language. I'm not saying here what language to use. I'm saying just use the appropriate language kung ano man yung bagay in that particular scenario. Like I would I have so many friends. I talk to so many people on a daily basis. And nag-iiba-iba talaga yung language na ginagamit ko. Depende sa kausap ko. Sometimes, syempre, pag kausap ko mga babae, iba yung language ko. Kapag kausap ko mga lalaki, iba din yung language ko. Right? Syempre, I will not use girly language when I'm talking to men. I will not use boyish language when I'm talking to my girlfriends. Diba? So that's what we mean by using the appropriate language. Every person has their own category, 'di ba? May kanya-kanya silang category sa buhay natin. So always use appropriate language so that it's easier for us to articulate our thoughts. Huwag tayong magpanggap na huwag tayong magpanggap when it comes to language kapag hindi natin kaya sa isang particular language, okay lang naman. You just have to be very honest. In communication, what's the most important part in communication is to understand and be understood. And I will constantly remind you with that mantra. Kasi I really advocate about, good communication or effective communication. Dapat magkaintindihan tayo para mas masaya. Bakit pa tayo nag-uusap kung hindi tayo nagkakaintindihan, 'di ba? Okay. Another thing is I'm very guilty. I'm very guilty about this. I talk too fast. And siguro isa sa mga causes kasi noon is sa Bicol kasi mabilis talaga kami magsalita. Well, particularly in my province, in Albay province, mabibilis kami magsalita. So, nadadala ko siya even when I'm speaking in Tagalog or when I'm speaking in English. So, if you are in doubt of what you're about to say, take it slow. Okay? Dahan-dahan lang. Walang wala naman tayong time pressure unless siguro nasa korte ka or may timer. May timer na may ano ka, under time pressure ka. Pero naman sa work, 'di ba? If you want to say something, wala namang timer dun eh. You can take it slow para hindi sabog-sabog yung sinasabi mo. Okay? Another thing, okay, malapit na tayong matapos, don't worry. Number five. Number five, tip number five is do not be overly self-conscious. Okay, ano ba ibig sabihin ng overly self-conscious? Okay. When we are speaking, we tend to be so conscious about grammar, about how we use the words, about our language, about pronunciation. Ang dami. Masyado tayong conscious sa mga bagay na actually secondary 'yun. Ang pinaka-importante when you're speaking your thoughts, when most important part of, in articulating your thoughts is really so much about the content of what you're saying. Okay? Basta naintindihan ka, yun yung point dun eh. Doesn't matter kung gaano ka kagaling mag-English, gaano ka kabihasa mag-Tagalog. Wala naman yun eh. Hindi naman yun importante. Secondary lang yun. Ang pinaka-importante is nagkaintindihan ba kayo? I always ask people that. Do you understand what you're talking about? Do you guys understood what I said? Right? Because that's the most important part why we're doing this. Kasi para tayong nag-blubber-blubber lang, tapos hindi naman ba nagkaintindihan. So, do not be overly self-conscious. People don't really care so much about how you how you construct your grammar or the structures. Unless, well, ako nga English major ako when I was in college, but I don't really care so much about grammar. Not that I'm saying that it's not important. That's because I'm saying that it's secondary. No, secondary. Importante din siya. Pero second lang siya sa content. So, content, tapos ang ikalawa dyan is yung grammar. Kasi syempre, paano ba kami magkakaintindihan kung hindi maayos yung sentence structure, di ba? Pero I'm also encouraging people, to be mindful about grammar when you are writing. Because when you're writing, ang dami na, meron ng mga apps to check on your grammar, pati spelling, ganyan, di ba? Meron na sa Microsoft Word or maybe sa Grammarly, di ba? Sa email ninyo, meron na rin, di ba? So, parang walang excuse magkamali sa grammar when it's written. But when it's spoken, do not be so overly self-conscious about it. Wala namang ano yun, anong tawag doon, hindi naman masama yun. Wag natin masyadong ginajudge yung sarili natin. And I will tell you this, if you go back to my previous episodes, up until now, you will probably encounter several grammatical errors in the words that I'm saying. But the point is, yes, I know, no, naririnig ko rin naman pag may mali akong grammar. Pero ang pinaka-importante kasi, naintindihan niyo naman ako, di ba? So, yun. But of course, I'm also improving myself. Once na narinig ko yung mga grammatical errors ko, I will make sure that I will not do it again. But if I do it again, just in case, well, tao lang ako, di ba? Anong talaga, maganda pero hindi pwede maging perfect. Yes! Next! Ayan. Next is you have to believe in what you have to say. And this is strongly telling you that you have to be confident in what you are saying. Because people will not believe what you have to say if you don't believe it first. Diba? Hindi po pwedeng, hindi sila maniniwala. Kung ikaw nga hindi ka naniniwala sa sarili mo, diba? Mauna ka. Kung gusto mong paniwalaan ka, mauna ka. Ganun lahat yun. Everything begins with the self. If you want people to believe you, then you have to believe whatever you're saying first. If you want people to respect you, then you have to be the first one to give respect. That's really how we do it, right? Uh-huh. Good communicator talaga si Ice, kaya masarap kausap siya. Di namin namamala, ano? Di namin namamalayan siya sa office kapag nag-meeting tayo gabi na pala. That's true. Yes, I remember before, naalala na magka-work tayo. Sa panahon ngayon, pasosyal, salita ng salita, pero di naiintindihan, out of topic na. Oh, that's true sometimes. Okay. Ayun. Okay, hello, MD Prince. I'm sorry, what does that mean? Okay, sorry po, hindi ko po na-gets ko ano yun. Do we have foreign people in the audience? Please say your highs and hellos just in case it's your first time on my channel. Thank you so much. Okay, again, believe in what you have to say. Next is be prepared. Believe it or not, every single night I have a live stream, right? But believe it or not, I still practice every single day before I even put myself in front of the camera, or if I would even practice in front of the camera, because I really have to be prepared about how it feels like to be in front of the camera, and I have to be prepared about the possible questions that I will probably encounter during the live stream. And even when I'm teaching, I still like an hour before, I will still do my practice. No? Talagang hindi ko yung binibitawan hanggang sa hindi ko na-prepare yung sarili ko mentally, emotionally, and physically every time I speak, so that I wouldn't be lost in the conversation. I wouldn't be lost in the topic, and I will make sure that the objective is met during that scenario. For example, if I'm at work or maybe I'm teaching, diba? I really prepare like all the time. That's how I do it. Okay. And of course, practice, practice, practice. I have to emphasize that one because people think that when you're already old, you don't need to practice anymore, but we actually do. Um, yan, kaganyan. Lagi ko nahuhuli yung sarili ko sa okay? Yan din, okay, okay, 'di ba? Marami yan yung mga fillers na tinatawag natin. So, how do you really eliminate those unnecessary words, or maybe yung mga fillers, or maybe yung mga mannerisms natin? It's really practice. One of the students that I have before, tinanong niya ako, how come parang lahat nga daw ng questions na tinatanong nila, alam ko yung sagot. Sabi ko, number one, I never go to work unprepared. I always prepare, especially when I'm teaching, kasi inaasahan ng mga estudyante ko that they will be able to get the learnings, right, from me. Majority ng learnings talaga nila is sa teacher manggagaling or sa instructor manggagaling. And ikalawa, syempre, I don't want to be humiliating myself, blabbering about something that I don't know, because that's the thing. You being there means that they believe in you and they know that you're doing your job. So I don't want to be embarrassing myself by not doing my job, right? And doing my job means even though I'm not in the office yet, I have already been practicing what I have to do before going there. That's a part of it. That's a part of life. That's a part of the cycle that I do to make sure that I'm delivering what is expected of me. So, yun din yung sasabihin ko sa inyo. At the same time, it takes a lot of practice talaga. I didn't okay, I had a very bad stage fright before. Yung sobrang bad na I would probably pass out if I'm on stage. But again, it's not as if nawala siya totally. But I still have stage fright every now and then. But the thing is, I practice. That's the big difference. Kailangan ko talaga siyang paulit-ulit i-practice. And I will also share that secret with you, although it's not a secret. But the secret is really to constantly practice. Ganun talaga. For example, if you've read a book, ask yourself some questions and then answer them. Tapos, humarap ka sa camera, record yourself, and then observe how you deliver the words that you're saying, or maybe para ma-observe mo kung ano yung mga mannerisms mo, mga ganon. It's really a constant effort from your end. And syempre may bonus tip ako. If you have a long statement to say, write it down first. You really have to write it down. Kasi para ma-organize mo, unless otherwise, may mga tao talagang magaling mag-memorize. Pero kasi hindi ako magaling mag-memorize. Hindi ko siya skill. Kaya akong mag-memorize, pero hindi ako magaling. So, dahil ang strength ko is writing, dahil ang strength ko is writing, I really write it down first so that before I say something, I know that it's already organized on the paper. So, i-deliver ko na lang. Ganon. Um, and hopefully you were able to pick up a thing or two from our conversation. But let me share with you something from Theodore Roosevelt. This is something that I always share in my communication classes. Before I end my communication classes, pinupost ko lagi to. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Most of the time, we are so obsessed with a lot of things that we forget that really people don't really care so much about other people unless they know that they care for them. For example, I'll give you this one. Um, in a previous, in a well, several years ago before COVID happened, it's a common thing, being invited in events and being a guest speaker, ganyan. It's a common thing. So in-invite ako as guest speaker, and I was seated right next to someone. And when that someone came, I didn't know who he was. Everybody stood up. I'm like, okay, I also stood up because I didn't know who he was. And he was introduced, ganyan, ang dami niyang achievements, ganyan, ganyan. But you know what? Up until now, I already forgot his name, but I still remember how I felt that day. I really didn't care how famous he was, but I cared that he took the opportunity to talk to me, or he took a chance to talk to me, said his hi, tapos kinumusta niya ako. Naramdaman ko kung gaano siya ka-sincere as a person. Mas tumatak sa akin yon kaysa yung mga achievements niya. So, people don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. In that very short period of time that we were seated together on stage, I felt like, this person is so nice. Yun lang yung tumatak sa isip ko. Di ko na nga maalala kung sino siya eh. Basta sikat siya. And we were guest speakers during that day. So, again, we have to stop obsessing about structures or whatever. Ang tanong ko sa inyo is, when you're articulating your thoughts, what's your intention? Maganda ba yung intention mo? Sabi nga nila, you only break your silence when you have something good to say, or when you have something to say that will contribute, or that is better than silence. 'Di ba? So, kapag sa tingin natin hindi makakatulong yung sasabihin natin, keep quiet na lang muna tayo until such time that we figure out if that those words that we're about to say will contribute to a particular conversation. Yan. It's also very smart, and at the same time it makes people feel that you know your role in that conversation. Okay? So hope you were able to pick up a thing or two from our conversation. Aw. Hi there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sir Noel, you are always prepared naman anytime. Thank you, Sir Noel. Oh, my heart. I'm so happy. Thank you, sir. You speak so highly of me. Thank you po. Hello, Ma'am Cherry. Good evening po. Thank you, thank you. And syempre, again, this is Irene. Thank you so much for... Syempre, may pa-picture ako dyan, di ba? Okay, and thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy that you stayed and you contributed to the conversation. And just in case you would like to have, a conversation with me as well, if you want to ask for some tips about, how to communicate, ganyan, you can definitely send me a message through my inbox, or maybe through my WhatsApp, which is also posted on my channel. I mean, on my page. And also join the conversation if you also want to be a guest speaker in any of our themes, kasi alam nyo naman, every night we have different themes. So if you want to also join the conversation, or maybe start a conversation, I am so open to having people as a guest. Isa sa mga na-encounter kong comments from other people who are also constantly supporting the channel is that sabi nila, nakakatawa daw yung conversations kasi these are the conversations that are not talked about, but very helpful. So thank you so much. If this video has helped you out in any way and you think that this video will also be able to help other people, please feel free to share the video. It's still available for replay after it ends. Yan. So thank you, thank you. And again, yan. Tuntua ako. So please buy your copy. It's Art Plus Magazine. And just in case you cannot find it sa nearest bookstore, please get in touch with me. You can you can not you cannot buy from me, but I will endorse you to the people who are in charge with the sales. Yeah. Thank you everyone. It's been a pleasure. And I'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Empowerment Wednesdays. And yes, thank you everyone. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay articulate, and also constantly practice if you want to be more articulate in the next couple of days or in the next couple of years. It really takes a lot of practice, but it's also worth it. Hi. Thank you everyone. God bless you. Good night.